I just wanted to demonstrate the backend of my app that shows the progress of automation across different industries. I already talked about the app itself in a different video, so I'll just demo the backend. So in the backend I use .NET. I think it's a really cool backend technology just because it's very structured and it has a lot of support for Microsoft, and documentation is also great. You don't need to really install external libraries. The new Git package manager has a lot of the libraries that you would already need, and it just makes everything very standardized. And so I am running it locally here. So I have like different launch profiles, and I am using the HTTPS one, which is just for local development. And so I can basically show it running. Hold on. So if I go here, copy, and then Swagger index. So it's running Swagger, and it kind of shows all the endpoints that I have. For example, industries, I can try it out, execute, and there are my industries. Right now I only have 2. So it's just basic CRUD app. It's very convenient to have this Swagger here just to kind of show and like test, but sometimes I use Postman, or there's like VS Code extensions to hit the API, which are very nice too. For the database, I am running a Docker container. There was a really convenient extension. So basically, I have an SQL project here, and I'm able to kind of connect to it using this extension, database projects. And then from here, I'm able to publish the project, and it will publish a new Azure SQL database emulator, which is basically just a Docker container running an SQL container. I'm not gonna do it right now because I already have it running. So you can see here, basically this is the image, this is the container that's running, and I'm able to just use a regular DB connection string to connect to my local database for local development. And then moving on to controllers. So I basically just have like a basic MVC. I have my controllers here. I can kind of like showcase the basics here. So this is .NET 7. I know .NET 8 is coming out soon, but I don't think there'll be much difference. The way that it kind of works is that whatever the name of the controller is, company right here, will be kind of replaced by this route. So essentially, like if you do /company, then that company will be replaced here in the route, and it will basically just map to these all these functions here, and it will hit 1 depending on what the method is here. And this is get, this is get. These 2 are get just because this is getting all of them, and this is getting a specified based on the ID. So it basically just overrides whichever one, depending on if there are like path parameters. And so it basically just using entity framework to find. So this one just gives all of it in a list. So you can see it's an enumerable, which means it's a list. Action result, and a task. So this just means like it's asynchronous, like a promise that it has a wrapper. This is a wrapper just for like HTTP responses, and it just kind of standardizes the HTTP responses in like an action result. And and the context is being injected from the program.cs file for right here. So services, add db context, and then I'm using my environment variables to inject my string here. So it's using dependency injection to get the db context. Moving on to put, right? So with this one, we are just changing the state to be modified. So it knows that, okay, we have a company that got passed in, and we are kind of saying that this company is being changed. We save it. If there is an error, then we kind of say that, oh, okay, well, does this company exist? I think this is a local variable, isn't it? Oh yeah, it's a local function that we just created to see if that company even exists. And then going back, so if it doesn't exist, then we just return a not found. And these functions are kind of built in with the controller base. And this is a status 404. So if I go to controller base, we're basically inheriting. So when we're creating this, we're inheriting from controller, which basically exposes a lot of functions that are very convenient to like basic API and CRUD applications. So like things like not found or like bad request are very common and standardized to make things very easy. So we have a post here, which is very easy. Just add it using entity framework and then just save it. And then we just return an action result. Delete. First we find it and then we remove it. This is a helper function, and we just use the attribute non-action so it doesn't get confused with the other, endpoints. So that's the controller. All the other controllers are very similar. I wanted to kind of look into db context here. So with db context, I am using on model creating to kind of add some seed data. So I have like a folder with some seed data of like, employment or occupation data or employment data. So I'm just basically just reading from the JSON file and deserializing it, and then putting it into the database as seed data. So this will run on start because I have a migrate. So this will run the migrations, which are right here somewhere. Where are my migrations? Yeah, my migrations are right here. So it will just run the migrations on start. And this kind of avoids having to do like, EF core database migrate command. You can run that, but it also just helps in production because then you don't have to kind of do some weird things to SSH and run migrate manually, or like there's a way to do it automatically too. But I found that this is kind of a simple solution for now, like a temporary solution. And I also have CI/CD running. So basically what I have here is two jobs, build and deploy. And so essentially what's happening here is I'm using pre-built actions. So this one is going to basically just check out my GitHub repo. And I'm using like, these are kind of like public actions that basically just allows us to use other people's scripts without having to like copy paste everything into your own script. And this one is a pre-built script to kind of set up my .NET environment, and you just have to kind of specify the parameters. So I'm using .NET 7. It's a pre-release. I'm building it. I don't think this one is very necessary, but it can help catch some bugs and kind of like separate out the different steps, so it's easier to kind of debug and catch errors. But this one is important because it creates like the artifacts for when we need to deploy to Azure. This one will kind of compile everything and include all the assemblies needed to run the application, and it will output it into my app directory. This one just runs .NET EF Core just because when we do run it, it does need .NET EF Core to run the migrations. Upload, deployment. So this one is basically just getting ready for the next step. It will just put everything that we need for deployment into my app. And then we basically, from the previous step, we basically do the same thing and download. So this one's like uploading, this one's downloading the artifacts to get ready to deploy it. And then here we are deploying. So we are using another GitHub action, and it basically just deploys the app, a web app, specifically a web app, an Azure web app. And this one will basically use a secret in my GitHub repo. So I think I can actually show you that. So if I go to GitHub and I go repositories, backend, and then I go to settings, secrets, actions. It basically just takes this this secret. I'm not going to show you because it's a secret. And then it will basically publish. And I guess we can kind of demonstrate this working. So I can just put like a random comment. Okay, we can stop this. Get branch, get on, get connect, showcase CI/CD. Okay. And then I go back. So if I go to actions, it should have triggered. It should have triggered. Yeah, okay, there it is. So it is building and it will deploy. I guess while this is kind of happening, I can also go and show you how I deploy to Azure, or like what it kind of looks like here. So I can actually see the deployments in Azure as well. So if I go to like Sikho app, and then I think there's a deployment center here. Today is Tuesday 10, yeah. In progress, right? So there's a deployment happening. So it kind of like syncs GitHub and Azure. I'm also able to kind of look at the logs. So if we're diagnose and solve problems. Yeah, okay, application logs. And it'll kind of show you what's happening in the container that is running the API in. Yeah, right here. It's basically just showing you like, okay, okay, there's, I think, yeah. And then this is basically just showing like all the logs that are happening. See, like the migrations are happening, database is already up to date, because I didn't make any changes to the database, so the migrations didn't really need to run. If I had made migrations, new changes to the database, then it would run the migrations. Yeah, that's everything. In the future, I kind of want to add test cases. Yeah, I also want to improve the website, but that's essentially the backend for the website. Yeah, now it's deploying. Okay, so that's everything. Thanks for tuning in.